Welcome to Stories from the Center of the Universe, the podcast about the human experience.
Lily Cameron, welcome to the Center of the Universe.
Hi, thanks for having me.
No problem. I guess we should mention that we're neighbors.
Yes.
My wife is also here. She's going to not talk, I think. She's just here to listen. You're the 205th episode. My wife has participated in one because it was our son, and this is the first time she's come to the basement to actually listen real time. Second time. She's telling me second time. Oh, that's right. There was one other. Who was it?
Dimitri.
Oh, that's right. She was part of Dimitri Drujinski's. But we're very happy to have you here, and I can't wait to hear your story.
Well, I'm so excited to be here, and Lisa's a really good friend of mine, and she's been very, very supportive of everything that I've been doing, so I'm really excited that she's here too, so I'm less nervous, and I'll talk more.
And you can look at her if it makes you feel more comfortable.
Okay, I might do that.
Very cool. Yeah. So typically I start at the beginning, and so where were you born?
So I was born in Tehran, Iran in 1979.
So you are a lot younger than I am.
Oh, am I?
Yeah, maybe.
I thought we were kind of around the same.
In 1979, the Shah was in charge of the country, right?
Yes, that's correct.
And how would you describe the Shah's government back then? And I know you were a baby.
Yeah, I was a baby, so I didn't really know. But the stories that I've heard was that the Shah was much more liberal, and so he allowed women to walk around without the headscarves. He allowed them to choose whether or not they wanted to wear a headscarf. He was very pro-American, so he wanted to bring like the Western culture to Iran, and he believed in women having an education and having jobs, even jobs in the government. So he was very like pro modernization, if you will.
Yeah, and the government that then ended up taking over when you were a baby was essentially the complete opposite.
Yes. Yeah, so that was Ayatollah Khomeini, and it was the Islamic Revolution. So they basically hijacked the religion, and in the name of the religion, they took over the country, and they said that women have to wear headscarves. They said that all these different things are mandated. And it's really, they really gave a bad name to the Muslim religion, the Islamic, and by calling it like the Islamic Revolution. And they took Islam, which is normally a very peaceful religion, and they made it into something that it completely is not. And so they came and they overthrew the government, and my dad worked for the Shah. So me and my whole family were in danger for our lives. So we had to escape from Iran.
Because you were telling me before today that you were fearful that you would lose your life. You actually weren't fearful because you were a baby, but your parents were certainly fearful for you and your sister.
Exactly. Yeah, they were going to kill my mom and my dad and me and my sister, even though we were just babies.
Why would they kill you?
Well, because my dad worked for the Shah, so they tried to get rid of anybody that worked for the Shah's regime.
Any connection to the Shah?
Any connection, yeah.
That seems crazy.
Yeah. Well, they wanted to make sure that all the Shah's supporters left the country or were killed or arrested so that none of them could band together to rise back up and take the country back.
So I've forgotten the history. How did they actually pull off a takeover of the government? It wasn't a military takeover, was it?
Well, now you're stretching my brain a little bit. I don't remember exactly all the details.
Well, you don't remember because you were
I don't remember, and I don't. I should know the stories, the history better. I should know it better, but I don't know, like how they did it. Like, I don't think it was military, but it was definitely by force. They had people with guns, but I don't believe it was the military. My husband actually knows this stuff a little bit better than me.
My recollection is they had people that were in the government that were friendly to the cause of the Islamic Revolution, which helped. And then I think, they certainly had weapons, and so it felt maybe it wasn't military necessarily, but it was certainly by force.
Oh. That's interesting you say that, because I didn't know if there were like insiders in the government already that helped or not. Like I've never heard that before. But
my recollection is there were some, but I don't know that it was important for them to be able to do the takeover.
Yeah.
But it's been like that since 1980, right? The government is still essentially the same as it was back in the 80s.
Yeah, there was a time where we had, where they had someone else that was trying to run for president of Iran, and they called it, I believe, the Green Revolution. And the people of Iran thought that things were going to change and the government was going to allow or be less restrictive, but then they squashed that person, and they really held a tight regime. I mean, some of my family members say it's a little bit better now than it was in the 80s, but currently, right now, and I don't know if you were going to get this in your questioning, but right now it's pretty horrible with, I don't know if you heard, there was a young woman named Masa Amini that had her headscarf. It wasn't tightly wrapped, and some of her hair was showing, and they ended up killing her. And so now there's protests going on since that day, and it's been many, many months, and they've killed or arrested thousands of young women and young men that are protesting in support.
That's still happening now.
That's still happening to this day. And I should have called my uncle and just gotten an update on the news in Iran today, because he posts about it a lot. I sometimes try not to watch it because it's just upsetting. And it's also not something that's broadcasted here. So you can't really see it on CNN or Fox or any of the regular news channels.
Why not?
That's a great question. And that's actually, like, my mom and uncle have talked about that a lot, and they're very upset that that's not more prevalent in today's news, because so many young people are protesting for freedom, and they're just being killed. And we do have some protests and support that are happening in the United States. There was one last week in Washington, D.C. The VCU students at the Persian, they have a Persian club at VCU, and they did a protest, I think in the beginning of March. And so there are these little protests here and there, which can get bigger and more well known in the Iranian community, but it's not, that information is not getting to the general public. And there has been a lot of frustration about that on the part of Iranians, that why isn't this information out there? Why aren't people hearing the voices of these young people in Iran, that they want things to change. They want to have choice in the matter, whether they tightly wrap their headscarf, whether they loosely wrap their headscarf, whether they wear long sleeve shirts, or maybe they have their shirts a little bit shorter. They want to have freedom. They want to have choice. And it's really just so upsetting to hear the stories of what's going on in there. I don't know if you heard, there was an amazing song written. I wish I remembered the name. I think it was Shervin. I don't know. I will. I believe it was Shervin. I don't remember his last name, but the song is called Baraya, and it means for the people. And he literally sang a song for the young people that want freedom, for everybody in this country that wants everybody to get along, for all the people suffering in Iran right now, for all the Afghans suffering in Afghanistan. And the very fact that he sang this song, as soon as he released it, he got arrested.
It's unbelievable. It's just a song.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's been like the rallying cry for this. I don't know if people are calling it a revolution right now, but that's been the rallying cry for what's going on right now in Iran. And he just won a Grammy for the song.
as he should. Well, I haven't heard the song. I've heard it's good. I've also the bravery that it takes to release a song like that.
And I believe, I really should have researched this before I came, but either Time Magazine or probably Time Magazine, that names the person of the year. They named Iranian women as the person of the year, with their bravery and just standing up for their own rights and their right to freedom.
So at least Time Magazine is paying attention.
Yes.
15, 20 years ago in this country, it would have been a massive story, and it would stay top of mind, and it would have been talked about by journalists. I fear that journalism is not really a thing that's important these days to our culture.
Yeah.
And it absolutely should be, because journalists are just fact finders and fact sharers.
Right.
And that's an important set of facts that we should be following. As freedom-loving Americans, we would love the world to enjoy the freedoms we take for granted.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we can go on a whole spiel about journalism and journalists today. I think a lot of it is opinion driven, and they want to share their opinion and put their opinions out there. But yeah, the facts need to be shared, and there are a lot of struggles going on right now with the Iranian people, especially the younger generation. They want things to change. They want to have some freedoms. They want to be able to get an education and make a difference in the world and just have the freedom to do that.
Yeah. It's what anybody would want.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so back to when you were a baby.
Yeah.
You obviously don't want to stay there because it meant arrest or death.
Right.
And you obviously live here now. Tell me about how your family got out of Iran.
Yeah, so my dad escaped first because he was imminently in danger of being killed. And then my mom left with me and my sister. My sister was only a year and a half at the time, and I was about 3 months old. And so here she's like a young mom, like 26, 27 years old. And then she flew all the way here and came to America. My family is very fortunate in the fact that my dad had actually always wanted to go to America. So when he was younger, he actually came to America. He was the first of his whole entire family that came to America, and he went to school here. And so when the revolution happened, a lot of people escaped to Germany, England, like European countries closer to Iran. But my dad said, no, we're going to America. And then the other fortunate thing was that my mom's family was very smart about wanting her to learn English. So she actually, when she was young, she went to her college in England. So she was able to learn English there. So when they came here, they didn't have that added challenge of not knowing the language, which was a huge benefit for them because they had so many other challenges. You know, when they escaped, they couldn't take anything with them besides, me and my sister. So it's so sad listening to them recount the stories of, they couldn't even tell their moms that they were leaving or where they were going.
Oh, that's unbelievable.
It is. It's so incredibly sad. And once they escaped, my mom said that she thought that at some point she'd be able to go back. And unfortunately, they didn't get to go back within, the years after that both of their moms ended up dying.
Yeah.
And so they never saw their moms again. And it's super heartbreaking to hear when they're just talking about they didn't like to talk about having to escape because they left everything they knew. They had worked hard. They both had jobs. They had good money. They had a lot of friends, a ton of family, and then they just had to up and leave everything. They came here. They had $8. That's it. And so my dad had a friend that helped a little bit and got us. I believe he helped get us an apartment or something. And then they just started working. My dad worked 3 jobs, and my mom would take care of me and my sister all day long. Then she would make dinner for my dad. Then after dinner, she'd put everything away, clean everything up, put us to bed, and then she would leave and go to work from 10 o'clock at night until 5 in the morning, and she would work. And then she'd come back at 5, and then she'd make breakfast for my dad so he could go off to work, and then she'd get us up and get us ready. I honestly don't even know when my mom ever slept.
So she was taking 20-minute cat naps, it sounds like.
I don't know when she slept because she must have been taking some cat naps somewhere because, it was so much work. And then I do remember when we were a little bit older, we'd go with my dad to work on Sundays, and we'd go pick berries for this lady had a berry farm or like fruit trees, and we wouldn't really help him because we were young, but we'd go be with him so that my mom would be at work on Sundays, and then we would be with my dad while he was working and picking berries and fruits off the trees.
And your dad was a government official for a while.
Oh yeah, he was actually the Shah's wife, the Queen's right-hand man. So he would always help arrange like any of the foreign guests that would come. He would be like the Queen's assistant. So he had a very, very...
He was in the inner circle.
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And you're talking about picking berries earlier. You guys moved to Maryland effectively.
We did.
I say moved like it was just you planned it and packed everything up, but you didn't pack anything. You just you desperately went somewhere else, and you had family that was in Maryland?
No, we didn't have any family. My dad had just that one friend that apparently we were going to be going to Texas. This is what my mom had told me. We were going to be going to Texas because that's where my dad went. I think he went to Texas A&M or I don't know, some school in Texas he went to. And then, but his friend said, stop in Maryland first and we'll talk and let's see what we can do. And then I think the friend was able to help get the first apartment. And then we ended up staying in Maryland.
How long was your dad separated from your mom and your sister?
I think we just came like a few months after he came.
Right, but he went to Turkey initially.
Yeah, I believe he like walked through Turkey to come and get to come and get on a plane and get to America because there was no really good way that he could just fly out of Iran because they had flagged him as being a person that they wanted to kill.
He was the Queen's right-hand person.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Did he love the Queen?
Oh, yeah. My parents both loved the Queen. I believe the Queen came to their wedding. I think I remember them saying that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really awesome.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So when you were a kid and you started to understand the world, at least like a kid would, like when you were 7, 8, 9 years old, what did you want to do when you grew up? Did you have any idea?
Yeah, so I think when I was like 9 years old, for seeing my parents just work and work and work all the time, and they always talked about getting an education. They said the number one reason was so we didn't get killed. But the number two reason they brought us to this country is because they wanted me and my sister to get an education. So that was the most important thing. So I think when I was about 9 years old, I decided I wanted to become a doctor.
At 9?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
What was it about being a doctor?
I just wanted to help people. Yeah, I wanted to help people, and then I was fascinated with the brain and how the brain worked, and so then I thought about becoming a neurologist, but then I was like, I want to do something more hands-on, and so then we had a family friend that was a neurosurgeon, and he was telling me about neurosurgery, so then I was like, oh, that sounds good. So then when I was 9, I said, okay, I want to be a neurosurgeon.
It's one of the harder disciplines for a medical doctor, right?
Oh, yes, it is, absolutely.
Did you know that when you were 9?
I didn't really think about how hard it was because at that point, like, I saw my parents that had struggled and left everything they knew behind. So at that point, nothing is really hard.
You're like, oh, yeah, that's a great point. If you're truing back to that, you're like, anything's possible.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm sure they didn't plan, obviously they didn't plan it, but to have that example from your parents your entire childhood, it had to be extremely powerful.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because it was like they didn't have to tell us you have to work hard. We just saw them working hard. I mean, after school, the bus would drop us off at my mom's work. She worked at a bakery once we started going to school, and we would just sit there and do our homework while she worked at the bakery, and then we'd all go home at 6 o'clock. And so that was just, we always saw our parents working every moment, all the time.
So were you, when you were in school, were you super academic, or were you very academic and you had other interests as well?
I would say I was super academic. I loved studying. I loved just learning and just being so grateful for the opportunity to go to school and just being like grateful that I get to learn all this stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, yeah.
And were you a math and science kind of kid?
Oh,
primarily?
yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you feel like when you were younger that you were accepted by other kids?
So I think that I would say I was so focused on my studying and so focused on like what I was learning and what my goals were that I didn't really pay too much attention to the fact that everyone else kind of saw us as outsiders. My sister talks about this a lot because she was more aware of how other people were perceiving us. We were the only ethnic kids in the school that we were going to. And so, she says people used to make fun of us. I don't believe it. I don't think they made fun of us.
But you were so heads down, you really don't know.
Yeah, I didn't really pay attention. I mean, anything that happened, like, to me was so insignificant because, like, I had a goal and I just needed to study and achieve my goal. So,
yeah, it's great to have that sort of focus. And so you ended up treating the trivial
Right.
the level of concern that you needed to give it, which is 0.
Yeah. Well, I will say, I mean, there were times that, like, you know, I do remember, like, the kids would spit in my hair on the bus.
It stopped for some reason.
Oh. Well, good. Maybe I won't share that part.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
So, like, I do remember, like, sometimes kids would spit in my hair on the bus, and they would, like, say things. And so I would always just go tell my mom, and my mom would just say, like, you're beautiful, you're wonderful, you're amazing, just ignore them. And she sometimes would call the principal and let the principal know.
As she should. Kids should be doing that to other kids.
Exactly. They shouldn't. And I will tell you, they are still doing it today. To a lot of the refugee families that I work with, a lot of those kids are getting bullied because they can't speak English.
And that is because the kids are a combination of super immature and not getting good guidance from their parents, I imagine.
Yeah, I guess so.
I don't know what else explains it.
I don't know. But I mean, you know, I think bullying is a problem in general for all kids, you know. I mean, it's not something that only, like, ethnic people experience. I mean, everyone experiences bullying in different aspects. At least, I mean, I guess so. I don't know.
Yeah, I would love to find bullies and make sure they don't bully anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's maddening. It's almost like they're covering for their insecurity somehow.
Yeah.
But they're not old enough to understand why they're doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But it gives them attention.
Yeah.
Negative attention, but still attention, I guess.
Right.
All right, so super academic. Did you have any interest outside of going to class and studying?
Well, I would say, like, we were in Key Club, which is a service organization. So that was, like, our one thing that we did outside of school. And then when we were in middle school, our parents did put us in Farsi class so we can learn how to read and write Farsi.
Did you speak it in the house at all?
We didn't. My mom was very adamant that she wanted us to learn English and not have heavy accents and not have to worry about trying to learn Farsi first and then learn English. She wanted us to be very assimilated into this country, and she didn't want us to feel like outsiders.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably the way to go, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But you also want to be true to where you came from, too. And so learning Farsi is pretty cool. But it's hard to maintain Farsi if you're not speaking it all the time.
Exactly, yeah. I would say, you know, my parents would talk Farsi in the house a little bit, like if they didn't want my sister and I to know something, like if they were telling where our Christmas presents were or something, they would speak Farsi in the house. But then growing up, when we went to college was when we met a lot of other Persian friends. And then so we did speak Farsi a little bit with them. And then as years went on, I would just speak Farsi when I called my aunts and uncles in Iran and around the world. And then less and less I would speak it. So then last year when I started working with Afghan refugees, they speak Dari, which is similar to Farsi, but it's a little different. It's very hard for me to understand them, but it's easier for them to understand me. Farsi is a more formal version of Dari. So I would say, like, at the point where I started meeting all them, my Farsi wasn't good at all. But it's gotten much better in the past 8 months here.
Kind of has to, right?
It has to, yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about that now?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, so how did you get involved in helping Afghani refugees?
Yeah, so what happened was, it was April of last year. My friend Tom Lynch, who's a pastor of First Baptist Church of Ashland, he's one of the pastors there. He asked me if I wanted to help lead the church's response to refugees. So I said, yeah, that sounds good. And so he connected me with this organization called Reestablish Richmond, who is an organization in Richmond that's helping refugees that come from all over the world. And so I started doing some work with them. And then we started getting more church people involved in that. So then together, like one of the things we did last July, which was really awesome, Reestablish Richmond has this program where they bring in artists to teach the young people how to express what they're going through art. So they pick these, they call Narratio fellows, and they have them they select several of them to come, and then they get to have art supplies and this time with the art teacher, and their art actually gets displayed, and it helps them just express what they're going through as being refugees. Because, for me, my husband always makes a point of this. For me, as a baby, it wasn't really hard for me to be a refugee because I don't remember anything. My parents did all the struggling. But for the teenagers that are coming, that's really hard because they know what's going on. They know what they're leaving. They are leaving their friends. They're leaving their home. And they also have no say in the matter. Their parents don't have that much say, but at least the parents can say, like, which state we're going to go to, or at least the parents have a little bit more control over what's happening, where the teenagers, they don't have any control. And then, some of the parents, like the moms especially, could potentially come here and stay at home and not necessarily go into the workforce right away. Even some of the dads will stay at home and maybe start taking English classes and learn. But because education is so important in this country, all of these kids, the first thing that any resettlement organization does is enroll the kids in school. So you think about this teenager, like even the little kids or, 10 and 12-year-olds, leaving everything they know, not understanding the politics of it all, not understanding why that's happening, and then being plopped into like middle school in Hanover County.
And they're teenagers. Their brains are not fully formed. Puberty is doing all kinds of wacky things to them, and they're plopped into the Hanover County.
Right.
Like if you said, "Hey, pick the opposite of growing up in Afghanistan," you might say Hanover County, Virginia.
True that. Yeah. And so it's such a challenge for them because they don't speak any English, and then they have to go to like calculus. And it's a challenge for the teachers as well. Like I know some of the teachers in Henrico County that teach to a lot of refugee kids, and they're like, I'm teaching and I know they don't understand what I'm saying, but I'm supposed to teach calculus, or I'm supposed to teach algebra, or I'm supposed to teach world history. And so they just kind of have to muddle through until they learn English. Then they are the quickest ones to learn English because they're young, but they're also immersed in it. Then they end up having to translate everything for their parents all the time, which that makes another challenge. It makes it hard because, when their parents are trying to struggle with like social services and getting food stamps or, filling out forms, and then you're asking an 8-year-old to translate all that. That's a lot for an 8-year-old to do.
It's forget helping your parents. All the rest of it is a ton for the 8-year-old, and then you're asked to do that, and you're parenting in a way.
Exactly. Yeah. So I started doing the work with Reestablish Richmond with some of the church volunteers. So the Narratio fellows that do the art class, they asked for different churches and different organizations to bring food for them. And so that was really awesome. Because a lot of them were from Afghanistan. I know that they eat what's called halal meat, which is basically meat that the animal is blessed and killed in a humane way. That's all that means. And so they're very particular about that. But I also wanted to make sure that they got a chance to experience American food. So a friend of mine owns the Charred restaurant in Hanover.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And he's from Afghanistan himself.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he came here in the late 70s as well. So I talked to him and we brainstormed, and he said that he will supply hamburgers made with halal meat for all of these kids that were in the art class.
How do you find halal meat?
I don't know. He has a restaurant, so he has a dealer.
He
has a halal meat dealer.
I guess if anybody's going to figure out it's a restaurant owner.
Yeah. So he figured it out, and he got it, and he made the burgers, donated to us so that we from the church could take it over to the kids, and it was just amazing. The kids were so grateful. The Reestablish Richmond was so happy that we provided lunch that day, and it was such a rewarding experience for our volunteers as well. I took my kids with us, and they enjoyed it as well.
Do you think our government is helping at all?
So the government is helping. It's in different ways that the government's helping. So in Richmond, there's 2 resettlement organizations that I know about. This IRC, which is International Rescue Committee, and Commonwealth Catholic Charities, CCC.
Okay. So
they receive government funding. And then they help resettle some of these refugees that come. So sometimes, like the IRC, for example, will pay for 3 months' rent for a family. well, if you think about it, 3 months is not long enough for anybody to get on their feet. But, we have to take what we can get. They've ended up having to cut back. We have a family right now that I'm hoping they'll pay a month rent, but so far it's just been like they'll pay for the first 10 days and then we have to figure it out for that family. But I'm hoping they will pay another month or two because that family hasn't gotten a job yet. But anyways, they have some restrictions because they have government funding. So one of the restrictions that makes it very, very interesting and challenging is because it's government funding, you're not allowed to put more than 2 people to a bedroom. So then you think about a family of 7.
Why does the government have that restriction? Is there any logic to it?
I don't know. No, I don't know the government's rules, like why the government decides that. I mean, I think probably somewhere along the lines they didn't want to have like 8 people in a 1-bedroom house. So they want it to be something that they can that's livable conditions,
I have friends that grew up 8 people to a room.
Yeah, this is so true. My husband grew up like that too. Well, not 8 people, but like he grew up with his 3 siblings and all in one room.
Yeah.
So yeah, it does happen. Exactly. So with the government restrictions, they can only place people in like 2 to a room. So then you have a family of 7 that gets placed in a 4-bedroom house. And the rent is $2,300 a month.
Doesn't make any sense.
How are they going to afford that?
They can't.
It's literally impossible. So that's a lot of what I help with. And the way that kind of evolved was, we did the work with Reestablish Richmond last summer. And then I started talking to my friends about it and telling them, we're starting to do work with refugees. And one of my friends had a master's in teaching English as a second language. And so she was like, oh, that's cool. I can come help teach English. And I was like, oh, that's great. Let's talk to Reestablish Richmond. And at that time, their model was sending volunteers to people's houses. So they sent anybody who signed up to volunteer with Reestablish Richmond, they would pair them up with a family. The volunteer would go to the house and teach English, like one-on-one. So I said, well, I have this person that could teach a class. And they said they weren't ready at that time to do that. But they said, you can do it through your church. And I was like, oh, that's a good idea. So I talked to Tom and he said, yeah, let's go ahead. This is something that the church had been praying about for years, about doing something to reach refugee families. So then we went ahead and just started the English class last October. And I will say we were a little bit flying blind. I've never ran an English class before, but so we started it and I made a Google form, a flyer, put it in Spanish and in Farsi and in English, circulated it to some people I knew and to like social services and Hanover County Public Schools, ESL coordinators, and then didn't really get anybody registered within a day or 2. And I would say like I'm a patient person, but like when I didn't get anybody registered in 2 days, I was getting a little worried because we were going to start the class like 2 weeks later and I needed to know how many people we needed. So then it was such a God moment that I was driving in September for my daughter's birthday to Party City to get balloons. And I remembered that somebody said there's an Afghan grocery store called Kabul Mart. And so I was at a stoplight and I did get on my phone. I shouldn't admit this, but I got on my phone, but it was a red light. And I didn't get on my phone. I used Siri. So I used Siri and I said, where's Kabul Mart? And it said, turn right here. You have arrived. And I was like, what? The Kabul Mart was right next to the Party City.
You had no idea.
I had no idea. So I went in there and I happened to have a flyer with me. I walked in and I said, I have this. We're doing this class in Ashland. Can we put the flyer up? And so the one guy started talking to the other guy, and then they started talking in Dari, and they're like, there's an English class in a church in Ashland. Where's Ashland? Is this going to even be a good class or not? So I let them talk for a few minutes, and then I went ahead and spoke up in Farsi, and I said, oh, yes, this is a very good class. And their jaws dropped to the floor, and they were like, you speak Farsi? And I was like, yes, I speak Farsi. I'm Iranian. And they're like, you're running this class? And I said, yep. Within like 2 hours, my class was full. So within 2 hours, we already had 10 people registered. We had 3 Hispanic people from the Ashland area, and then we had the 10 Afghans that just registered immediately, like within hours of me going there. And so that's how we started. So we started with doing the English class once a week on Thursday mornings. We, we asked some of the church members to volunteer to help with driving and childcare, because we realized, a lot of them, they don't have cars, and how are they going to get from Henrico to Hanover,
right,
to Ashland nonetheless. And so, and then childcare was a big problem because the husbands a lot of times are at work, so the wife is at home with like the littlest kid. So we asked some church volunteers. Then we needed some more church volunteers. So my husband's family goes to Ashland Christian Church, Disciples of Christ, and we go there sometimes as well. And so I said, well, let me go talk to them and see if they want to join too. So they were very excited about it too. So it has been like one of the most beautiful things that I've ever experienced, to see volunteers from Ashland Christian Church come with volunteers at First Baptist, and together going and picking up these family members, bringing them to the English class, watching their kids, helping in the English class. It has absolutely been amazing. And I don't know, there's a word that I keep trying to remember. I always say it wrong, but it's like ecumenical, or I don't know if you know what word I'm saying, but it means that when other churches from different denominations come together. Yeah. Ecumenical, I think it's ecumenical.
There you go.
Yeah. So it's been such an ecumenical experience. There you go. You learn a new vocabulary word, you're supposed to use it in a sentence.
That's good.
So, yeah. So then, so we ran our class. We did like a 6-week pilot program from October until end of November. And the students loved it. The volunteers loved it. I loved it. It was amazing. And so we said, okay, we need to keep this going. Unfortunately, my friend that had the master's with teaching English for a second language, her husband's business got really busy, so she wasn't able to teach anymore, but we knew we had to keep it going. So I said, okay, well, let me just get another hat, and now I'm going to start teaching the class in the spring. So now I did enlist Tom's help. I said, okay, this is getting a lot. So Tom and I co-teach the class now. And so it's a little bit a different format. We decided the 6-week pilot was too structured. What these people really need is conversation and community and love. So when we stopped the class in November, then we just, before we started back up, we started the class, let's see, I think we started end of February. So we had that break from November to February, and that's when a lot of the real work began. We first realized one of the students had come to us and he said, it was in October, why are people putting skeletons on their doors? Why are people putting pumpkins? What is going on? So we said, oh, okay, they need to learn about Halloween. So we explained Halloween to them. We invited some of the families to come to like a trunk or treat that we had at First Baptist Church of Ashland. And that was amazing. The kids, they were so excited to just get candy. They were like, what do you mean? We just go there and get candy and this is for us? So that was amazing. So then we're like, okay, we got to tell them about all the holidays. So we decided to have a Thanksgiving feast. And so we had that at Ashland Christian Church, Disciples of Christ. They hosted it, and the volunteers from there, as well as First Baptist, came over. Together, we had like one of the most amazing Thanksgiving feasts. Like I told my husband the weeks preparing, I said, and I don't know if this is historically accurate, I'm like, this is probably how Pocahontas felt trying to get the Indians and pilgrims together. Although, I mean, I don't know if it was her at that time.
Maybe a safer environment.
Yes. History is not my strong suit, I will say. But yeah, so like to get the Afghans, they wanted to share their food. So they wanted to make food for everybody. And then the Americans wanted to share their food, but I was like, they don't eat pork. It's one thing to remember, like put the pork, put whatever you need to put in whatever you're making, have the ham. I'm not going to say don't have the ham, but just let's label anything that has pork so that they know not to eat it. Then some of the families are a little bit more strict, so they don't eat anything that's not halal. I will tell you though, one of the favorite things of the Afghan kids, is Chick-fil-A. So
It's like every other kid.
yes, exactly. Because so chicken can be considered halal no matter what. So even Chick-fil-A chicken is considered halal because I guess there's no real humane way to kill a chicken or inhumane. It's really all the same. Like the chicken is killed the way the chicken is killed. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I could be also totally wrong because I know there's like, grass-fed beef and like, you can do things and free-range chickens. Thank you, Lisa. See, I knew it was good that you were here. Like the free-range chicken. So their things can be more humane. But anyways, they love Chick-fil-A. So that was my contribution to Thanksgiving was a Chick-fil-A tray because just managing everything else, I didn't have time to cook anything. But they loved Thanksgiving and just the warm welcoming they received at Ashland Christian Church, and when we opened the doors for them and they came, and it was just amazing. And then I will tell you about Christmas because that was another amazing event. But just to keep it in order, one lady called me the day before Thanksgiving, actually 2 days before Thanksgiving, 2 days before the Thanksgiving party, and said, I want to come to the party, but we have no long sleeve clothes. We have no shirts to wear. We have no nice clothes to wear. Is there any way that you can get us some clothes? And I said, yeah, absolutely. If that's your need, I'll take care of it. And I put it out to our awesome neighborhood and a couple other neighborhoods near here. And within 24 hours, I would say I had over 25 bags of clothes. It was amazing. So then we set it up in a room at Ashland Christian Church, and then we had them come when the families finished eating. I said, we have a room here. You can come and get whatever you need. They were so grateful. And I'll tell you, here in America, a lot of times we're like, oh, we don't think other people want our worn clothes or they don't want like our old stuff.
We're clueless.
Right.
We're completely clueless.
Yeah. But in the Middle East, it's one of the highest honors. If somebody comes to me and says, I like your shirt, I'm supposed to take it off and give it to them. Luckily, if I would have something underneath, I would take it off, But then, we can, they were just so honored that some people were wanting to give their own clothes to them. They felt like it was such a high honor, and they were so grateful. And it was so good because we needed coats. They said they didn't have coats, and around Thanksgiving it was very cold. And so thank God so many people donated coats. They got coats, and then we walked out of the church and we said, we're taking you to the Ashland Christmas Parade. And they were so excited. Oh my goodness. Now, if you have been to the Ashland Christmas Parade, so my kids, I take them every year, and sometimes they're like, okay, this is great. Can we leave? They're used to seeing the Macy's parade on TV. They've never been to the Richmond parade, but also they were just like, oh, this is great, but it's just a smaller parade. I particularly think the Ashland Christmas Parade is phenomenal. I love it. And I love the fact that I know so many people in it. But I'm telling you, these our Hispanic families and our Afghan families were so excited to see a parade. They don't have that in Afghanistan.
Not a lot of parades in Afghanistan.
No, definitely not. So they were just so excited. They were so happy. They videotaped the whole thing, entire thing. They sent the video to their family in Afghanistan. It was one of the most beautiful moments to just see the joy on their faces about this. And I can't wait to tell them there's a 4th of July parade. They will definitely be coming for that. Yes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so moments like that make all the hard work that you and others have done
absolutely
totally worthwhile.
Totally worth it. And so then at Thanksgiving, one of my awesome volunteers, Kara, came up to me and said, we really should do something for them for Christmas. And I was like, okay, Kara, just take a deep breath. Whatever the volunteers say, I feel like it's really God moving through each and every one of us to help encourage different programs to happen. And And so then we said, okay, let's do an angel tree. Well, by this time it's like end of November, so a lot of churches already have their angel tree. First Baptist already had a lot of stuff going on with the food pantry. Ashland Christian Church had the angel tree that they were already doing. So I just said, okay, let's do an online angel tree. And so I just figured out how to do it on Sign Up Genius, and it worked. I was like blown away. I was like, okay, we'll put this out on Facebook to our friends, and we'll put this out to the church members. And the amount of gift donations that we received was amazing. I made a list for every family, and I said, tell me what you need. And every single one of them wrote coat, warm clothes. And then for their kids, warm clothes, hats, and gloves. And I said, okay, but what do your kids like? And then they said they like to be warm. I said, well, yes, I know, but we like toys here in America. Can you tell us, like, if they like Superman, we'll get them the coats, we'll get them the gloves, but tell us if they like certain toys and stuff. They said, no, don't worry about that. We just need hats and gloves, coats, and socks. And so, of course, my volunteers are amazing, and they got way more than that. So we got purses for the ladies and wallets for the men, and lots of toys and books and wonderful, wonderful things. And so that was really amazing. And then while I was collecting the gifts, the brand new gifts, a lot of people were like, oh, you're working with refugees. Can I donate clothes? So I said, okay, let's just donate some clothes. So then we had a phenomenal Christmas party at Ashland Christian Church, and the volunteers from both churches came, and all of our families came, and they were just blown away. One of the Afghan dads came up to me, and he said that we have been through so much in this past year, and the one thing that we couldn't do, you and your team of volunteers have been able to do today, and that is to put a smile on our kids' faces. And that was just so amazing.
It's heartbreaking in some senses, right?
It is. But the gratitude that they have for everything you do is just so amazing. And so then we had our families, they got all their Christmas presents, and then we had the donations. We said, you can go through the donated clothes. If there's anything else that you didn't get as a present, you can look through and get. So then they got what they needed, and then they left. I had all the drivers ready, and they took them. But I knew we had a lot of clothes donations that came through. And so I said, well, like, let me put an advertisement out there to let local international people know that this is something that's happening at Ashland Christian Church. So the Christmas party was phenomenal, fantastic that morning. Then that afternoon, I had circulated the flyer to like Hanover County ESL, Hispanic Family Coordinators, social services, and everything. And I told the volunteers at Ashland Christian Church, I'm like, I don't know who's going to come, how many are going to come, we don't know. At the time that I said on the flyer, we opened the doors, and we had over 100 local Hispanic families come in need of clothes, toys, and other items. I'm telling you, within 15 minutes, we ran out of stuff. My volunteers were so amazing. Immediately went to Walmart. I immediately put it out to our neighborhood. One of our volunteers drove to the neighborhood, picked up the bags that some of the neighbors had ready to go, brought it back. We wrote down some of the names of the families of specific things that they were in need of. A lot of them had babies and didn't have a crib, needed car seats, pack and plays, diapers, wipes, all of this stuff. And so within a couple hours, we got a lot of that stuff. It was just such a beautiful way that we all worked together, because I just happened to go on Facebook to post that we needed items, and I saw a friend of mine posted she had a crib. So I immediately messaged her. I said, I have somebody right here, right now that needs a crib. She lives in the Sedgefield trailer community in Ashland. Do you have any ability to deliver it to her? And my friend said, yeah, absolutely, but I don't have a mattress. So I said, okay, no problem. And here, like, we are 2 days before Christmas, right? And I was like, this is so many things happening. I hadn't even finished the shopping for my own kids and wrapping for my own family. So I told the volunteers, I was like, I can order a mattress from Target right now, but I don't have any more time left to go pick it up today and deliver it to this family. And one of the volunteers said, no problem, I'll go pick it up. Just tell me how to do the Target pickup order and I'll go get it. And just that working together, within that one day, we got the family a crib. And like with a brand new mattress with sheets and everything. And then, so out of that event, what we did was the families that didn't get enough stuff, we collected more donations. And then I would say probably 2 or 3 times from that day, including on New Year's Eve day, including like a couple days after New Year's, we opened the doors of Ashland Christian Church for people to come and get more stuff. As stuff came in, we would just let the people that came that first day, we'd let them know, just so that everybody would get something. We did run out of a lot of toys. Those are always one of the first things to go, especially around Christmas time. But so then that kind of birthed the clothing closet at Ashland Christian Church. So then we decided, we all got together and talked about it at Ashland Christian Church and said, you know, they were ready to do a ministry, and we knew we had the English class over at First Baptist. So we said, why don't we do like a clothing closet here, where once a month we will collect donations, and once a month we'll open the doors to anybody in need, but mostly we're gearing it towards the international community in terms of our flyers and our advertising. So I always put my flyer in 3 different languages, and I always circulate it to like the ESL coordinators and other like family needs navigators for the Hispanic community. And then we've actually opened it up and circulated the flyer to the resettlement organizations, the CCC and IRC, so that the brand new refugees can come and get stuff too. And so we started it, and now we call it the Disciples Depot. So it's on the 3rd Saturday of every month over at Ashland Christian Church. I have an amazing group of volunteers that on Friday they come and they set out all the clothes, toys, kitchen items, donations. And Saturday we open the doors. So this past Saturday we opened the doors and we had over 180 people come.
My goodness.
Yeah, 180 people come and get stuff that they need. So we did run out of toys. Everybody got the toys that they needed, so we don't have any more toys for the next time. So I shouldn't say we ran out. A lot of the kids got toys. And then, so we're collecting more donated toys. Kids' clothes is always a big thing that is in need because, you know, with them, you just have to find the right size. A lot of times we'll give them a piece of clothing that might be bigger than what their kid is right now. We'll like, take it, save it for later. And they're like, we have no room. You know, they're in small apartments or they're in trailers. They don't have any room to store this stuff. So we advertise at the local Hispanic market in Ashland, and then through you know, the other organizations that I mentioned as well. And it's just been so amazing. And one of the things that I tell the volunteers is this is not just a place for these families to come get clothes. They're coming to be loved on. They're coming to get supported. They're coming to feel a sense of community. They're coming to meet each other. They're coming to get help. I had one lady, a new pregnant Afghan refugee with her 2 kids that had called me a couple weeks ago saying she's in need. I said, come to the clothing closet, to the Disciples Depot, and I'll meet you there. And so I got to meet her in person, got to find out what her needs are and what I can help her with. And so the Disciples Depot was kind of born out of that one person that for Thanksgiving said, I'm sorry, I'd like to come to the party, but I have nothing to wear. And then just to see this great need in Ashland, you know, for the local Hispanic community in Ashland, a lot of them are just walking there. And we try to help as many as we can. And, you know, a lot of them will let us know their needs. And then we also work with the YMCA has a social needs navigator for the Hispanic community. So we have him come so that he can also kind of help address their needs as well. And then for the refugee families, then I kind of find out what the Afghan refugee families, I kind of find out what they need and we go from there.
What's the focus now?
So right now we have our English class up and running. It's going really well. Today we had a speaker come, which was great because I did need a little bit of a break from teaching and lesson planning. And so the speaker came and talked about budgeting and paying bills because that is a big problem that has come up.
That's a big problem for people that grew up here.
So true. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so that's well underway. And then for the English class families, we do minister to them a lot and help them with a lot of different needs. So I would say I manage about 60 different family members right now with my entire team of volunteers. And there's so many different needs. A lot of them came on humanitarian parole, so they needed to apply for asylum. And so...
humanitarian parole, help me think about that. There's a limited amount of time you can be a refugee.
Yes.
And there's a parole period where you have X amount of time to go.
Yeah, so you have humanitarian parole status for 18 months.
Okay.
That allows you the ability to work here. You get social security numbers, you get all that information. And then you have 18 months to apply for asylum, which says basically like I'm in fear of my life. I can't go back to my home country. And then you apply for asylum. When you apply for asylum, then you can apply for more permanent status like a permanent resident, citizenship, and all of that. So they all needed to apply for asylum, but for a family of 6, it's $6,000 to do that. So at first I was like, well, how am I going to fundraise for all these families? So then I was like, okay, let me contact other organizations and see what everyone else is doing. And I really got lucky. I found a lawyer that was working for the U.S. Committee of Refugees and Immigration. And she just got placed in Richmond. So I got her right at the beginning of when she was here. And so we took all our families there. And it was really, really amazing because it gave us the opportunity to kind of hear their stories without asking directly. And so we found out so much cool information. Like the one guy that had gotten a job doing laundry at a hotel, he had been a hydroelectronic engineer for the United Nations in Afghanistan. I was like blown away. The other family, he owned a construction company, and it was just like amazing. And then it was also very sad because he said the construction company worked for was a contractor of the United States. Like the U.S. contracted with his company to build the security checkpoints. So when everything happened, they killed a lot of his workers and blew up his company. And so thank God he escaped with his family, but with his kids and his wife. But, some of his other close family members were not that lucky at all. So, it was really, really hard to hear that was like around November, December time, taking them to the lawyer. Those were some very, very hard days for me and a couple of the other volunteers that were doing that because, they don't necessarily share their hard stories and where they came from and what they had to go through to get here. It's kind of like my parents, every time they started talking about it, they'd get so choked up and it was so hard. And just to talk about what you left behind, it was just easier for them to just pretend that never happened. And, my life started when I entered into America and to go from there. But, but we have been it's been such an exciting journey because there's so many different opportunities to help and there's so many different things that we've been able to do. So we did the lawyer, but then we also, one family, a family of 8, they needed jobs. So I did some job applications for them and I got them jobs. Well, I didn't realize like I'm getting a couple of them jobs here and a couple of jobs there. Well, they only have one car for all 8 of them. And so how are all of them going to work at 2 different places? So I was like, okay, well, you guys will need a car then. And the car that they had would not even fit all 8 of them because I invited them to lunch one time and they only brought like 2 of the kids. And I was like, where's everyone else? And they're like, we only can fit like 4 in our car. I was like, oh, well, this is a problem. So then we were able, the group of volunteers that I work with, I put it out there and one of them found a minivan. Another one went and checked it out for me. Another one told me like, help me with what the process is of like getting the title and insurance. And then we went and the Ashland Christian Church donated the funds to purchase the minivan for this family.
It's awesome.
And yeah, it's amazing because that you have to give them a little bit of help to empower them to then help themselves.
Right.
Because now that they have a car, now the husband and wife both have jobs. 4 of the kids have jobs. I mean, it's amazing. That's how they're going to survive. But they couldn't have done that if they only had the one car that didn't fit all of them. And so that was a huge success. One of the family members that we work with, she was in medical school in Afghanistan, and she was 3 months away from graduation. She was in a 7-year program, and 3 months away from graduation, when Kabul fell, she had to escape. Her brother was working for security for Karzai, so they were all going to get killed. So they all escaped, and she's like, "I want to study again. I want to learn English. I want to study." So I got her enrolled in J. Sargent Reynolds. And I actually don't mind filling out forms. Like, it's one of my things that I like to put effort to. And, well, I did in the past. Now I've filled out a lot of forms the past few months. Maybe I don't like it so much. So I filled out the FAFSA like a couple days before Christmas. She filled out most of it. And then I helped with a couple things. And then it just kept glitching. It wouldn't work. It said denied, denied, denied. It wouldn't go through. I'm like, I don't know how to fix this. And I'm like, God, I do not know anymore. I'm going to leave this. I got to enjoy Christmas with my family right now. I'll pick this up after Christmas. Miraculously, I'm telling you, I don't know how it happened, but the FAFSA got approved and accepted the day after Christmas. So I think what happened was one of the things that she had put wrong was her birth date, and I had gone in and fixed it. And when I fixed it, it kept saying denied, but I think I just didn't give enough time for them to process the new birthday.
Wow.
And so like 2 days after Christmas, it got processed. She got the Pell Grant, and she got
awesome.
enrolled into J. Sargent Reynolds, so she's in English class now.
But 6.5 years of medical schooling and training, and then you have to go to J. Sargent Reynolds to effectively start over? Or she just learned, she's completely starting over?
Completely start over. So J. Sargent Reynolds, she's got to do almost 2 years of English classes. Then I'm going to try to get her to VCU. And then I found someone at VCU that can look at some of the coursework that she did and see if it can transfer. But that's like another $200 fee, which, you know, I'm going to go to the church members to see if we can get that paid for. So that way we can pay that and then get her courses looked at and see what will transfer over. Because, you know, she was practicing in Afghanistan, like as a, you know, not as an intern, but like just as a medical student. She was able to do a lot. I mean, I've seen her certifications and all the paperwork and everything that she's done. It's amazing. And so, so there's some potentials, so like some avenues that I've been able to find through some of the help with Reestablish Richmond. They let me know about this course verification program that can do that, and things like that. So
let's back up.
Sure.
We're going to come back to this topic.
Yes.
But so you became a medical doctor. Lots of schooling. I've had some doctors on the podcast. It's more education than I can fathom. I had zero desire to do anything after I graduated undergrad. The staying power and the perseverance that doctors have to go through just to become a medical doctor is staggering to me. Yeah. You went through all that, and as I mentioned earlier, you're basically a brain surgeon, right?
Yes.
You were trained to be a brain surgeon.
Yeah.
You were a brain surgeon for how many years?
So I did my residency for 4 years. Then I broke my arm.
Right after residency?
No, in my residency.
Oh, my
gosh. So I didn't even finish. It's a 7-year program for neurosurgery. A lot of other specialties, pediatrics and internal medicine, are like 3 or 4 years. Had I done those, I would have been finished. But I was like dead set on being a neurosurgeon. And so I was a neurosurgery resident for 4 amazing years that I got to help so many people and just be such a, it's such an intimate time of somebody's life when when they're diagnosed with like a brain tumor, or when their kid is diagnosed with a brain tumor, or has a shunt and has shunt failure, or when they have spinal disease or something. I mean, that's such a difficult part of life that these people go through, and to have the privilege to be part of that and help be part of the team that cares for that. I mean, that was just so amazing. It was so phenomenal. Like those 4 years of my life were just beyond words could describe of how amazing it was to be able to help these people.
Your story's kind of similar to the lady who had 6.5 years of medical training in Afghanistan. I mean, there are obvious differences, but you were almost at the end.
Exactly.
And how did you break your arm?
Well, one day I got off work early and the sun was out. And so this was like unheard of. I hadn't seen the sun in 4 years. So then I was like, what am I going to do? So I went to Target. I bought an exercise ball and then I started exercising. Then I was like, well, I'm going to fast forward the video. I fast forward the video and started doing like a sit up on the ball. Not smart. The ball rolled and I fell completely on my arm.
Oh.
Yeah, so then I broke my arm, and then I had met my husband in my residency, and so we were about to get married, and I was the night float resident, so that meant I was the only neurosurgeon in the hospital, and so I didn't want to take time off to let my arm heal, because then I would have to postpone our honeymoon and our wedding and all of that, and everything would change. And so I said, okay, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to keep working. So I kept working with a cast, which is probably not a good idea. And so then I ended up developing a lot of problems and a frozen shoulder and numbness in my thumb. And then it basically didn't heal properly. My hand was chronically swollen. And then I finally went to the doctor. And he said, look, I think you've really damaged your arm so much that you can't operate anymore.
Wow.
So
well, that had to be crushing.
It was crushing. It was, well, I wouldn't say it was crushing. No, it was hard. Because again, at that time, I'm like, okay, this is hard. This is not the path I thought that was going to happen. It was very upsetting because, I had wanted to be a pediatric neurosurgeon all my life. And so it was very upsetting, but I was like, okay, there's a plan. God has a plan. I don't have to leave my country and go to another country where I don't speak a language and leave everybody I know. So again, the fact that my parents went through so much, it made like that setback not as big of a deal for me. It was a huge deal, but it was also like when you put it in perspective of what my parents had to go through to leave everybody they knew, to leave their country, to leave their home and their friends, family, everything. And to come to a country where they know nothing about, okay, now I can't do the specialty that I trained in. What am I going to do? So then I just retrained in family medicine.
And so that perspective, I guess, has been really powerful for you your entire life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it definitely gives so much perspective. When, I tell my kids if they're grumbling about going to school, I'm like, people in Iran are protesting to have the ability to walk freely in the streets. People in Pakistan are protesting for the people in Afghanistan that the girls aren't allowed to go to school. So you better take Malala got shot in the face so that she could go to school. Yeah. I don't want to hear one more word that you don't want to go to school. So
and they listen and they're like, yeah, you're right, Mom.
I don't know. They're in middle school, so I don't know how much they say you're right, Mom. But they go.
They're thinking,
listen.
They're probably thinking it.
Yes, I hope so.
Hopefully they're thinking
so.
it.
Yeah, because that's the only way. Like they didn't see my parents working so hard. They do see me and my husband working so hard. So hopefully just seeing that will be ingrained in their mind. But they have to know the stories. They have to know the stories of how much my parents struggled and how hard it was when they came here. They have several of the refugee families have kids in their school. And I tell my boys all the time, I'm like, you need to look out for those kids. You need to look at the young girl that's in your class that's from Afghanistan that doesn't speak English very well. You need to think that's your mom in the past. That's your mom that somebody was picking on. Don't let anyone pick on her.
Everybody should have that mindset.
Yeah, I wish everyone did. I keep trying to get my kids to speak up about it because that's the thing. They have to speak up. You see something, say something.
Yep.
So it's so critical.
I should have asked you this towards the beginning. Did you grow up Christian?
So I wouldn't say no. I did not. I would say no. I did not grow up Christian. A lot of the people that came from Iran at the time of the Islamic Revolution really felt like, well, I mean, I don't think I can speak for all of them. I can just speak from my perspective of what I saw was a lot of people were like, okay, we are Iranian and that's part of our culture, but the Muslim part of our culture, now they've hijacked our religion. They've hijacked it and they've made it into something that it's not. So, my parents weren't very they weren't adamant that we go to a mosque and practice our religion. They also weren't saying, okay, let's go to a church all the time. But my mom was definitely adamant that we're celebrating Christmas because Jesus is a prophet in the Muslim religion and extremely important in the Christian religion. And it's extremely important for Americans, And so it was really so important for my mom that we celebrated Christmas. And so it was very interesting to me for the refugee families. I offered all of them. We had a couple extra Christmas trees that we thought would be great for some of these families. But I knew a lot of them are Muslim. A lot of them are practicing Muslims. They go to the mosque in Henrico on Fridays and they pray, and they also fast during the month of Ramadan. And so I just offered to them. I said, by the way, we have a Christmas tree. If you want it, you don't have to have it. It's not, you don't we won't feel bad at the church. That's one of the biggest things we do at the church is say, we respect everybody, whatever religion they are, whatever country they're from, however they practice their religions. We are not here to convert anybody. We're not here to impress our religions upon anyone else, impress our beliefs upon everyone else. Everyone can believe what they believe. And that's a very tolerable aspect that we have from both Ashland Christian Church and First Baptist Church of Ashland. And
it's how this country was founded.
Yeah, exactly. So it was so amazing to me that so many of these families actually did want Christmas trees. So we got groups of volunteers to take Christmas trees to these families, and their kids were so excited.
What's not to like about a Christmas tree?
Exactly. And especially then when we put gifts under it for them, they were very happy. So it was really, it's really been amazing. There's a lot of casework that we do for these families in terms of helping kind of bridge, because they don't speak English. We help make their doctor appointments. We help when they get a bill they don't understand. When they have a bill from the collection agency they don't understand, then I have to explain to them, where was the original bill? Why did you ignore that? You need to start sending your bills to me if you don't understand it. Because, they don't speak English, so they don't understand a lot of what comes. So a lot of them do get some food stamps because they don't have money to get food. And their food stamps keep getting cut off. That is probably, I would say, here lately, the number one thing I deal with. Like the pregnant lady from last week with the 2 kids that called me, her food stamps had got cut off 2 months ago. She's like, I don't know what to do.
Why were they cut off?
And so I found out because I called social services, and then I had to have them put me on as a authorized user and all of that. Once we got through all that, I found out in January, they all got sent a letter to say, do you still need food stamps? Yes or no? Send the letter back. Well, the letter's in English. They had no idea what it said. They weren't sure. And a lot of them just put it in a file and hoped that sometime somebody would explain it to them or call them or whatever. They never sent it in. So then they didn't get renewed. So they lost their food stamps. And
all of that process around government interaction and paying bills, I don't think most Afghans experienced anything like that.
No, yeah, exactly. Electricity, I'll tell you, electricity has been such a challenge. Their electric bills have been like $400, $500, $600 a month.
Ridiculous.
And I was like, what is going on? So then I go to their house and I say, okay, we have to figure this out. Well, the one family has baseboard heat. And then I was like, let me look through the whole house. So, and they're so gracious about letting them do that. Because, would you really let somebody just walk through your entire house to tell you what you're doing wrong with your electricity bill? But they were so kind to do that because they knew I was just trying to help them. Went through the house, went to the teenage boy's room. The door was closed. We opened the door. The window was wide open. Oh. I was like, why is this window wide open? And they're like, because the boys stink. And I was like, I get that. So she's like, when they go to school, I change the sheets, I fix their beds, and I clean up the room, and then I need to open it to get fresh air in there. I was like, look, you can't. I want you to picture money flying out the window because you have baseboard heat, the amount of electricity it's going to take to reheat the room to the right temperature once this window is closed after being open for hours is going to be astronomical. That's why your bill is $500-$600. She said, so what do I do? I said, I'm going to buy you a spray, and it smells like fresh air. And she was like, what? I'm going to spray chemicals in the kids' rooms to smell like fresh air?
Teenage boys do stink pretty badly.
Yeah. Oh, they do. They do. But I was like, yeah, that's what we do here in America. We spray the chemicals that smell like fresh air.
Chemicals in America can solve all kinds of things.
Exactly. So I told them, I said, you cannot open your windows until the Persian New Year. The Persian New Year was this past Monday. It's the first day of spring. So I said, that's the day. Well, then I told them all at class, still don't open your windows because today was a nice day, but it gets cold again.
Yeah.
So I said, I'll tell you when you can start opening your windows. But
simple things that we take for granted.
Completely.
Yeah.
Or like they went to the food bank and they got mac and cheese. Well, then they called me and they said, well, what is this? They sent a picture. I was like, okay. And it was like the cups of mac and cheese. So I was like, okay, you pour water in it, put it in the microwave. It's going to be great. So then I went to their house a few days later and they're like, no, we just want to give these mac and cheese back. And I was like, what happened? And they're like, well, first our kid ate it and it was too crunchy. Then we called you and you said, pour water in it and put it in the microwave. So then they poured water in it and they put it in the microwave and they said it was way too soupy. They didn't understand it. And there was no cheese. I said, no, the cheese is this powder. And they're like, what? And I was like, yeah, no, this is what we do. We take the powdered cheese, we mix it in the water, but you only fill the water to right here. And then she looked at me and she's like, that doesn't make any sense. I will just make them fresh noodles with fresh cheese. I was like, okay, I'll take these back, And then she tried to give me back a pack of Twizzlers. And I said, no, you keep this. This is good.
Yeah,
and then
right.
she's like, no, what is it? Is it strawberries? She pointed on the picture. She's like, is it strawberries? And I was like, oh, no. It maybe kind of tastes like strawberries, but it's pretty much sugar. And she's like, so why would I give this to the kids? And I'm like, no, Twizzlers makes mouths happy. Like, they will love it. And, right. And so she's like, that's not good for their teeth. And I was like, yeah, I know. But I was like, just keep it. So she kept it. I don't think she ever gave it to the kids because she was like, why am I going to just give them sugar? Which makes sense. But but it's been such a blessing for all of us to get to know these families. And, they're not just a refugee family to us anymore. They're our friends now.
Yeah.
Our volunteers go there and, the families love to make our volunteers food, and they just always want people to stop by and be fed. And so one of them had asked me a few weeks ago, like, you had this great Thanksgiving party for us. You had this great Christmas party. When's the next party? And we're like, okay, I'll do it. We'll have a Persian New Year party.
Okay.
So this past Saturday, we did the Disciples Depot. We gave out the clothes. And then the volunteers and I got to work for Sunday. And we put together the one of the most amazing Persian New Year parties that I've been to. We had all the families come. We had drivers volunteer to bring them. And they came with their kids. And, at the English class, it's a Thursday morning, so we don't get to see a lot of their school-age kids. So it was really great to see a lot of their school-age kids. And then they brought tons of food. And we knew that they wanted to share their food and share their customers. But we also know they're on food stamps. So what we did, we kind of brainstormed. I asked one of the families I'm closer to, like, could I give you all money for the food that you bring? Or, I don't want to insult you. She said, no, don't give us money. So I was like, okay. So then I thought, like, why don't we just give them a 20-pound bag of rice from BJ's and then a nice tray with apples and oranges? Yeah. Because then that's like food back to them, but it's also like a gift. Yeah. And it's also like thanking them for bringing food for us to try. And it's just so, for me, a lot of the heartwarming part is to see our volunteers from both churches, like getting to know each other, getting to know the families, and just all working together as a community. It is one of the most beautiful things in the world. And
it's the best part of being a human.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And so we we ate, and then we put the music on, and then we danced, and it was so amazing. I love dancing to Persian music. I dance to it in the car all the time, and but wow, the Afghan families, they all wore their traditional outfits, and I had to leave the dance floor because they were so good. I couldn't stand there. I was like, well, my Persian dancing isn't as good as yours. I'm going to stand here and watch. And they were amazing. And just the happiness and the joy that they could forget for a few hours that they're living in a hotel, or that they can't make their rent this month, or that they, have other struggles in their lives. They could forget that for a few hours and just be, and just know that they're in a community filled with love and support, and that we will all together help them address their needs. But during that moment, let's just dance. Let's literally dance our cares away as if no one's watching.
Yeah, that's great.
So they did say, like, a lot of us were videotaping, and they did ask me to make an announcement. They said, don't post any of these for our safety.
Right.
So they couldn't really totally dance like no one's watching. But the kids especially really, really enjoyed themselves. It was so beautiful to see.
And rewarding for you and the other volunteers.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that's the best part. I think a lot of the volunteers, the feedback that I've gotten is they said they wanted to do something to help. They didn't realize they would receive so much in return. Just the love from these families. And, one of our volunteers said that, life was just really tough for her. She was very lonely, but knowing that she was coming to the English class every week, and then these people were excited to see her, it just brought so much life back to her.
Yeah.
So.
How do people help?
So, like, how would anybody that's not
anybody that's listening, how could they help?
Okay, that's a great question. So we have an email address that people can email me. It's fbca.esl@gmail.com. So First Baptist Church Ashland English as a second language, or English for speakers of other languages is now the more PC way to say it. So fbca.esl at gmail.com. And we also have a phone number that they could call. They could call me at 804-496-1557. And then I can help them get plugged into whatever they're ready to help with. Then we can plug them in. If they're with a church or neighborhood or community and they say, we just want to help, but just help a little bit right now, then they can do a donation. They can, for our Disciples Depot, every month we have a new item that we give. So last month we gave like soaps and shampoos. The month before, toothbrush and toothpaste. So this month coming up, we're going to give some more, like 4 packs of toilet paper and diapers and wipes. So community members, church members, anybody on their own, they can always take up a collection, and that's always very much appreciated. And then if they want to get more involved, they can email me and let me know other ways that they want to get involved. If they want to make any donations, they can specify that they want to donate to the Disciples Depot through Ashland Christian Church, and that'll go into our international ministry that we, the fund that we use for both churches, and then we can help people that way. A lot of the families have finished their time of support with Commonwealth Catholic Charities or the IRC, so nobody's helping them with rent. So that's a big thing that we're trying to figure out what's the best way to help. I don't want to just pay rent for a month or two for some of these families, because that's not a long-term solution. So for some of them, I've talked to them about, okay, I can give you $500 a month for 6 months, and then it's going to end, but that'll at least kind of bridge you to get you a little bit of leeway so that maybe one of the kids can start working with you, one of the older kids.
Right.
And then, or you can get a better paying job or something like that. Or your wife can start working. And so we definitely need more people that are willing to give them jobs. Right now, everybody basically has to work at Walmart, because Walmart will take the non-English speakers very easily, so we can fill out a job application and they get a job. But, anybody out there who has job opportunities, please email me. Anyone out there who has housing, we have a phenomenal couple in Mechanicsville that was so kind to rent out one of their rentals to one of the refugee families. And, sometimes there's challenges. There was December, they lost a lot of the food stamps and their TANF, which is a social services thing, and their IRC support. So the family had a hard time coming up with money for December. We were able to figure out a plan for them by December 31st. And I called the landlords and they're like, you know what? It's Christmas. We're going to give them December rent as a gift. They don't have to pay it this month. And so that couple has been phenomenal. We definitely need more couples like them. They have also helped enroll some of the kids in a soccer club because the kids just want to play soccer. They want to do something that makes them feel normal again. So there's,
and they want to have fun.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Car donations, that's a huge thing. If anybody wants to donate their car, they can donate it to either First Baptist Church of Ashland or Ashland Christian Church and specify for the international ministry. We have a single mom that's in need of a car right now. And we definitely have other families in need of a car. So there's a lot of different ways that people can help, as little or as much as they're ready to.
Cool. Let's close by you telling me about your husband and your kids.
Oh, okay. So my husband's been so amazing about supporting what I'm doing. And I told him, I said, my birthday's coming up. And so I think what I want for my birthday is, could you just pay the rent for this one family in need? So he said, we'll discuss it after your podcast. So I'm hoping he's thought about that, and that would be a yes. And then my kids are great. They know that the week of the Disciples Depot, that there's going to be lots of clothing donations from the neighbors, and they're responsible for bringing it into the house. They're responsible for loading it into my car so that I can take it to church and help set it up and everything. And then they are good about knowing that, a lot of the kids, they just want to feel like normal kids. So I'm like, come to the parties, come to the events, and just interact with them all so that they feel like they have friends. When you see them in school, say hi to them.
Yeah.
If they can't say hi back right away, they'll learn it. Hi, how are you? I mean, we just did that in our class a couple weeks ago. Hi, how are you? I'm good. Thanks. How are you? And so, but the kids will pick it up quicker. So, I mean, I think it's so heartwarming. Like even today, just to see the young people get involved and excited, it makes me so happy. So today, one of our neighbors was so gracious to donate a dining room table to the family that just moved out of the hotel into an apartment, and they have no furniture. And so one of my volunteers is in college, and he was going to come pick it up. And I was like, well, that's around the same pickup time that I get my kids from school. I can't help you. I was like, can you get someone? So he got one of our high school youth students from the church to come and help him. And when I heard that, I was so excited. I was like, you get the youth involved so that they can see what these families are going through. It makes them have that feeling of gratitude for what they have. And it also fosters that idea of, let me help others. Because, so many people have struggles that we just don't know about.
Yeah. Well, very cool. How do you say thank you in Farsi?
Merci.
French.
Oh, yeah. The French took it from the Persians.
You just kind of blew my mind.
Yeah. Ascenseur is also French, but they took it from the Persians. It means escalator. If you meet a Persian, you'll hear this phrase a lot. Oh, the Greeks took feta cheese from the Persians. It's all started with the Persians.
Well, merci for joining us. I really do appreciate it. Your story is amazing, and what you're doing for the community these days is equally as amazing. So
thank you so much.
Thank you for doing this, and thank you for sharing the story.
Well, thank you so much for giving me the platform to share the story, and anyone out there that's listening, if you just see someone from another country, they don't speak the language, just say hi.
Yeah, it means a lot.
And smile.
It means a ton.
It does.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to wherever you listen to podcasts. We'd also really appreciate if you'd rate and review us. You can find us at scodupodcast.com.